Think you know Turkey? Think again. Modern-day Turkey, straddling Asia and Europe, has been a center of trade for thousands of years. To this day, traces of its rich history are still being found by archaeologists. From the world's oldest bread to a forgotten ancient language, here are 20 astonishing discoveries recently made in Turkey. Number 20. Library of abandoned books. In the digital age, people prefer ebooks, PDF files, blogs, and other digital media over physical books. Most of these resources are available for free online, and carrying a phone, iPad, Kindle, or laptop is much easier and more convenient than carrying multiple books. While some people still prefer the tactile experience of reading a physical book, more and more people are getting rid of their book collections. It would be great if these books were donated, but unfortunately, the majority end up in landfills. Fortunately, there are individuals who are trying to save these abandoned books. In Turkey's Kana district of Ankara, local sanitation workers have been salvaging discarded and abandoned books. Initially, the books were shared among the workers and their families, but as the collection grew, so did the interest from the local community. Realizing the potential, they decided to establish a full-fledged library with all the salvaged books. With the support of the local government, the workers were allowed to use an abandoned brick factory as the library's location. Today, this library boasts over 6,000 books categorized into 17 different sections, including romance, economics, and children's fiction. The collection continues to grow, with books continuously donated by residents and even arriving via mail from all over the country. As books began flooding in, the abandoned library also began loaning books to local schools, educational programs, and even a few prisons. It's always great to hear stories like this, where kind-hearted people are willing to take the initiative and make a positive impact in their community. Number 19. Bronze Age brains. In 2023, ancient brains and skin were discovered in Turkey. Earlier this year, archaeologists found another set of well-preserved brains at the same archaeological site, the Tanli Mound in Kütahya province, also known as the heart of Western Anatolia. These Bronze Age discoveries were the first ones to have been found in the nation, as brain remains are incredibly rare, with preserved brains having only been found a handful of times before. For a brain to retain its form and leave a trace even after hundreds or thousands of years, the right conditions must be met. The process of carbonization is responsible for preserving brain specimens. This occurs when people are exposed to high temperatures upon their deaths, turning the organic materials in their bodies into carbon and subsequently preventing decomposition. Subsequent research revealed that one set of the brain and skin remnants belonged to a young man between 15 and 18 years old, while the other belonged to a middle-aged man between 40 and 45 years old at the time of his death. These remains revealed that these two individuals were most likely fleeing their homes around 1700 BCE after their homes were set on fire while the city was being raided. So far, the culprits behind the fire and the raid are yet to be revealed. Number 18. 2,000-year-old Roman makeup. The ancient Egyptians are known for using eyeliner, but they're not the only civilization known for using makeup. Recently, archaeologists excavating in the ancient city of Issos in Turkey discovered what people in the Roman settlement used to enhance their appearance. Among these discoveries were perfume bottles, pieces of jewelry, and a stunning assortment of makeup. One of the most striking aspects of this find is the makeup pigments themselves, blushes and eyeshadows in vibrant shades of pink and red that closely resemble the colors we use today. While makeup formulas today most likely last longer, it seemed like the Romans also studied how to retain the most vibrant color in the materials they used. It appears that the aesthetic of the makeup materials was also important to them, as they only used oyster shells to store their makeup. These natural containers would have kept the makeup safe and easily accessible. This discovery showed just how advanced the ancient city of Issos was. After all, during the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, the city was a significant hub in the Roman Empire. After its decline, the city was once again rediscovered by European travelers in the early 19th century, and since then, it has revealed numerous historical treasures, including ancient makeup. Number 17. Oldest bread. Archaeologists expect to find fossils, remains, and other artifacts while excavating sites. However, one of the discoveries that comes as a shock to them is when they discover food that dates back thousands of years. In a Neolithic site in Catalhoyuk, in south-central Turkey, archaeologists discovered bread. They were pretty shocked because this bread they discovered dates back to 6600 BC, making it the world's oldest bread. The city where this bread was discovered had its zenith around 7400 BC and was home to 8,000 people. Upon discovering this 8,600-year-old food, researchers sent the artifact to the Science and Technology Research and Application Center at Sumyun Erdem University for detailed analysis. Advanced microscopic and chemical techniques revealed that, unlike early bread created thousands of years ago, the Catalhoyuk bread was fermented, making it the oldest known leavened bread in the world. With its age, this food pushed back the timeline of bread making by thousands of years. Previously, it was believed that the ancient Egyptians were the first ones to leaven their bread around 1500 BC. However, this discovery proved that the people of the ancient city of Catalhoyuk were already proficient in bread-making techniques, including fermentation, long before the Egyptians. While this black, crumbling chunk might look like nothing but charcoal, it is really an important archaeological discovery that rewrote the history of bread. Number 16. Out-of-place grave. In most countries, iconic landmarks are typically statues, buildings, or signs. However, in Turkey, several residents use a single grave, as a landmark for their homes. The last thing you'd expect to see in the middle of a paved street is a grave complete with a large tombstone. But for locals in the city of Sirnak, Turkey, a grave is a completely normal landmark. For several years now, this grave has been in the middle of the street, and at some point it rose to fame online after its photo went viral. Why is this grave placed in the middle of the street? Well, we're not entirely sure. The tombstone has a large inscription that reads Gaban Martyr Baba, but no one really knows who this person was. All the locals know is that before they moved, the grave was already there, and no one really bothered to remove it. The leading theory is that the grave was originally in someone's yard. The house was demolished to give way for the road, but perhaps the grave was never removed. The same reason why some people are afraid of cutting centuries-old trees. You see, there are several countries that firmly believe in superstitions and curses, just as many believe that cutting an old tree would anger the spirits dwelling in it. Workers left the grave alone in fear that its owner would haunt them. In fact, there are stories that the person interred in the grave appeared in the dreams of the last owners of the property it was located on, telling them that the grave was once a sacred altar. This reached the ears of the workers, who all expectedly refused to touch or destroy the grave. And so, to this day, this grave remains an interesting landmark in the area. Number 15. Roman mosaics. In the heart of southeastern Turkey, particularly in an area known as Karamamras or Ladies' Castle, archaeologists discovered a time capsule from nearly 2,000 years ago, except it came in the form of buried art. A magnificent 2,000-year-old mosaic revealed itself to archaeologists back in October 2023 after they heard news of illegal excavations being carried out in the area. Archaeologists took it upon themselves to properly and legally excavate the area, and they were not disappointed by what they found. Who would have thought that beneath layers of dirt was a stunning Roman mosaic? The mosaic measures over a whopping 1,000 square feet and features an intricate array of designs, from fish scales and geometric patterns like triangles, hexagons, and octagons, to detailed depictions of nature, including trees, waterfowl, octopuses, fish, mussels, and seals. With the scale and greatness of the figures depicted in the mosaic, it's safe to say that the craftsmanship of the people who created this mosaic is impeccable. It's quite lucky that despite the damage from illicit excavations that prompted the rescue excavation, the mosaics have been remarkably well preserved. This was a blessing as it allowed experts to study the mosaics on the site and learn more about the area. Subsequent research revealed that the site was originally a villa rustica, a type of rural settlement common in the Roman Empire, complete with a central structure surrounded by smaller auxiliary buildings. As they say, the Romans did have a thing for luxury and the arts. Number 14. Roman amphitheater. The Romans had a passion for art and theatrics. It's safe to say that the Romans were hedonists. They were living for the pleasure life could offer, and everything they have left behind is a good example of that. Among the things the Romans indulged in was watching gladiators in the Colosseum. It might be brutal, but we have boxing, taekwondo, and other fighting tournaments in today's time. The only difference is that back then, death was a possibility. In 2021, archaeologists discovered a massive Roman gladiator arena in the ancient town of Oynoanda in western Turkey. During its zenith, this Colosseum had rows of seats, gladiator waiting rooms, as well as private suites for wealthy spectators. Now, it's merely hidden beneath a natural hill of shrubs and trees. This preservation is a rare find, as many such structures have succumbed to the ravages of time and nature. Number 13. Real-life hero. Imagine a barren hill devoid of life. This area, according to many, had no chance of being revived. And yet, years later, you saw the area teeming with life once again. Sounds like an idealistic story, right? However, this is the real modern-day story of Hikmet Kaya, a real-life superhero. Hikmet is a retired forest management official from Turkey. Over a span of 25 years, Kaya, with the help of local villagers, planted 30 million saplings in the Boyabat district of Sinop province, turning what was once a barren land into a lush green forest. Kaya started the afforestation project in 1978 when he began working for the Boyabat Forestry Operations Department. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Where there was once dry, unproductive land, there now stands a thriving ecosystem that supports a variety of plant and animal life. Kaya's dedication didn't waver even after his retirement in 2002, as the forest continues to grow and flourish years after his efforts. Now that's a real-life superhero for you. Number 12. Sinkholes. In January 2021, locals living in the Konya province in Turkey faced an unexpected challenge: sinkholes. That year, various sinkholes began appearing around the province until it reached 100, then 600, and today, that number has skyrocketed to over 2,000. So why are holes appearing in the ground? The primary culprit behind these sinkholes is the overuse of groundwater for irrigation in the Konya Basin. There are about 35,000 legal wells and an estimated 105,000 illegal wells drawing water from underground reservoirs. This excessive extraction of water, coupled with persistent droughts, has significantly depleted groundwater levels, creating voids that have a high possibility of collapsing into sinkholes. With farming being one of the leading means of living around the area, farmers are in a dangerous situation, and their livelihoods are at risk. Number 11. Fairy tale castles. This might look like something captured from a dystopian horror movie, but this is actually a real estate project nestled into rolling hills of northwestern Turkey. This is Burj Al Babas, an ambitious project that turned into an epic failure. Located near the historic village of Madernu, these homes were meant to be luxurious accommodations for the ultra-wealthy. There are 732 of these identical chateau-style villas, or should I say castles, with each designed to attract wealthy buyers from the Middle East and beyond. With a price tag between $400,000 and $500,000, it's safe to say that these villas were built only for people from a certain tax bracket. These villas were made for those who like luxury, with each villa being equipped with high-end amenities like underfloor heating, jacuzzi, and even the option of an indoor pool. The project was successful on paper, but in real life, well, not so much. The project kicked off in 2014, driven by the Serrat Property Group, who aimed to create a picturesque community complete with a shopping mall inspired by the United States Capitol, lush gardens, and serene ponds. Construction moved swiftly with over 2,500 workers on site. However, the dream began to crumble when oil prices plummeted and Turkey's economy took a hit. By 2018, the developers had filed for bankruptcy, leaving the project half-finished, quite an unlikely circumstance. And so, today, Burj Al Babas is nothing but an empty ghost town filled with unfinished villas that have never been used. The Serrat Property Group has already spent about $200 million just to establish the existing villas, and while they have no means of acquiring funds to continue construction, the group claims that they're still hopeful they'll be able to finish what they started in the future. For now, however, it seems like Burj Al Babas will continue to attract dark tourists and those interested in ghost towns rather than residents. Number 10. Most dangerous road. Is anyone here from Turkey or someone who has visited the nation before? Perhaps there are some among you who have already experienced driving or passing through D915, one of the most dangerous roads on the planet. This 65-mile road connects the towns of Bayburt and of, stretching through the heart of Turkey's rugged northeastern terrain. It was constructed during World War I by Russian soldiers who captured Trabzon in 1916, relying solely on hand tools to carve out this perilous path. Needless to say, it doesn't take a genius to realize that this road was created with practicality in mind. At one point of the D915 is the Daraboyu turns. In this section, the road ascends from 5,617 feet to 6,677 feet over just 3.2 miles, featuring 30 extremely tight hairpin bends. As if that's not enough of a challenge, the road here is also narrow, unpaved, and often shrouded in thick fog, which can descend rapidly, reducing visibility to near zero. Despite the huge risk it poses, many people continue to take this route because of the breathtaking vistas surrounding it. But the lack of guardrails, frequent rockfalls, and unpredictable weather conditions make D915 an impossible road to conquer for the faint-hearted. Number 9. Ancient earrings. Have you ever wondered when people began using earrings? Recently, archaeologists discovered one of the oldest pieces of evidence of piercings, 11,000-year-old facial piercings in a burial site in Mardin province in southeastern Turkey. While excavating to save the remains from a construction project, researchers found small pointed objects made from materials such as serpentine, limestone, chloride, flint, obsidian, and even copper. It was then that archaeologists realized that the items were placed around the skulls where the ears and chins should have been, suggesting that these small items were actually facial earrings. What's more, archaeologists also believe that these piercings might have had symbolic meanings, possibly related to coming-of-age rituals or social status within the community. This goes to show that a staggering 11,000 years ago, humans already had intricate forms of self-expression, and now the practice of using facial earrings continues to this day. Number 8. Dancing muses. Muses are something derived from Greek mythology. These women were figures of inspiration for science, arts, and literature. In total, there were 9 of them, each embodying different fields, namely Calliope, Clio, Erato, Euterpe, Melpomene, Polyhymnia, Terpsichore, Talia, and Urania. Although not renowned by many, these muses played a large role in the ancient city of Straddling, located in Turkey's Mughla province. And so, archaeologists were delighted when they discovered a remarkable statue of a dancing muse dating back to a staggering 2,175 years ago. Its age makes it the only original Hellenistic period piece. But aside from its age, it's also attributed to the sculptor Phyromakos, making it all the more significant. That's why, despite missing its head and arms, the dancing muse sculpture remains one of the most significant discoveries in the area. Number 7. 2,000-year-old Roman sewer. What's the best way to determine if an ancient settlement was advanced or not? Sewers. Well-planned sewers, having a good drainage system to get rid of dirty water and human waste, seem to be basic for modern settlements. But in the past, planning out an entire sewer system for the city required a lot of work, resources, and a lot of planning. That's why archaeologists were quite surprised when they discovered a sewage system while excavating the ancient city of Tralles in Turkey. The sewage system was detected right under one of the main roads of the city. It measured over 5 feet in height and over 2 feet wide, making it possible for a person to walk through it. We know that the Romans were remarkable when it comes to engineering and architecture, but this discovery was the very first intact sewer system we found. Now you're probably wondering, how did the ancient Roman sewer system work? All of the ancient city's wastewater was directed into the central sewer system, which transported its contents to a nearby stream. After that, all of the waste would be transported to the Meander River and eventually to the Mediterranean Sea. Number 6. Miracle plant. Thousands of years ago, the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians all hailed a single plant as miraculous. This plant, known as silphium, was prized for its diverse properties. It was a plant that could be used both for creating medicine or simply cooking. In fact, this plant was so valuable that during Julius Caesar's time, it was stockpiled alongside gold in Rome's imperial treasures, and its saplings were worth their weight in silver. However, modern archaeologists had no chance to examine this plant. You see, for centuries, silphium was believed to have been extinct, disappearing from the historical record around the 1st century AD. Roman chronicler Pliny the Elder noted that the last known stock was presented to Emperor Nero. However, recent discoveries by Professor Mahmoud Massadeh from Istanbul University suggest that silphium may not be lost after all. Massadeh proposes that a plant called Ferulidridiana found on Mount Hassan in Turkey is the elusive silphium. This plant discovered in Turkey surprisingly shares striking similarities with the ancient descriptions of silphium. Both have thick branching roots and yellow flowers. It seems that this plant truly is miraculous, and from the ancient civilizations we're now seeing its power. Recent research suggests that this plant has anti-inflammatory properties as well as anti-cancer properties, making it a wonder plant. More research is being carried out on this plant to determine whether it really is the elusive silphium and how we can harness its medicinal properties. Now it's time for today's topic. This discovery scares scientists. Recently, researchers discovered this bizarre specimen that allegedly belonged to one of the earliest settlers who lived in the expanses of Anatolia thousands of years ago. Being in a strategic location, the Anatolian expanse easily became the hub of trade and the melting pot of different ancient cultures. With these remains, it seems like the thriving region didn't attract humans alone. But what exactly is this creature? Is it an alien life form or a forgotten predecessor of ours? Let me know about what you think in the comments down below. Number 5. Long-lost ancient language. In 2023, archaeologists announced a significant discovery in Turkey. While excavating at a Bronze Age capital of the ancient Hittites, they discovered cuneiform tablets with engravings of a long-lost ancient language written in Luwian. What's astounding is that the cuneiform tablets contained a previously unknown language called Sisic. This language, belonging to the Anatolian Indo-European family, is believed to have been spoken in the ancient land of Kalas, located in northwestern Turkey. Despite the site yielding nearly 30,000 clay tablets, this cuneiform tablet is among the most significant because it revealed an unprecedented language. With each tablet being discovered, we're learning more and more about the Hittites and the languages used by the empire's minority ethnic groups. Number 4. An unlikely friendship. Swans are among the most majestic birds on the planet. While they are a delight to look at and are known to be naturally gentle creatures, those who have seen a territorial and aggressive swan know what these birds are capable of when crossed. A single swan has the capability of breaking a human arm with their powerful wings. Yes, you heard that right. But it seems like the right person can befriend even the most untamable species. In 2021, the story of Reset Marson spread across the internet. About 40 years ago, Marson and his friends stumbled upon a swan with a broken wing in an empty field near the Kadirli region of Turkey's Adana province. Fearing for the swan's safety, Marson took her home to protect her from predators. He named her Garip, which translates to bizarre, but also means someone down on their luck in Turkish. With proper care, Garip's wing eventually healed, but instead of leaving, she chose to stay with Marson, starting a friendship that would last for decades. The swan actively followed Marson around his farm, accompanying him on his daily chores and evening walks. Being a widower with no children, Marson appreciated the company. Now what's more astounding is that in the wild, swans only live around 12 years, but in protected environments, they're known to live up to 30 years. And yet, at 37 years, Garip has exceeded its species' life expectancy. It goes to show that with love and care, most animals will be your companion. They might stay with you for only a short while in your life, but you'll be their entire life. Number 3. Fairy chimneys. When you hear fairy chimneys, what comes to mind? Unless you've heard about Turkey's fairy chimneys before, the last thing you'd think of will probably be tall stone structures that have been carved out of an ancient volcanic landscape over millions of years. The story of the fairy chimneys began around 14 million years ago with a series of volcanic eruptions in central Anatolia. These eruptions blanketed the region with ash, which solidified into a soft, porous rock known as tuff. Over the millennia, wind and water erosion sculpted this tuff into the fairy chimneys we see today, some towering up to 130 feet high. These formations, also known as hoodoos, often feature a harder cap rock that slows the erosion process, giving them their distinctive mushroom-like appearance. Recognizing its exceptional value, UNESCO designated Cappadocia as a World Heritage Site in 1985. Today, local communities and authorities work together to protect the fairy chimneys and ensure that future generations can marvel at this geological wonder. Sustainable tourism practices are being adopted to minimize environmental impact. Number 2. Cotton Castle. If you look over the picturesque southwest region of Denizli, Turkey, you'll see a site that looks like something straight out of a fantasy movie. A steep valley with hillsides lined with rows of white stone steps overlooking the great expanse of the Anatolian Plateau. Pamukkale, roughly translated to Cotton Castle in Turkish, is a natural wonder formed over millennia by mineral-rich hot springs. These hot springs have created dazzling white terraces of travertine, a type of limestone that looks like a frozen waterfall. For thousands of years, the thermal waters in this place have drawn people to it. In the 2nd century BC, the Romans and Greeks flocked to the ancient city of Hierapolis just to soak in these springs. After all, it was believed to have healing properties. It didn't take long for Hierapolis to become a bustling spa town, where people would come to treat ailments like skin diseases and rheumatism. But perhaps the greatest thing about Pamukkale is the Cleopatra Pool, also known as the Antique Pool. Legend has it that thousands of years ago, the Egyptian queen herself swam in these waters. Today, visitors can swim among these ancient relics, feeling like royalty as they float above marble columns and other remnants of the past. Number 1. Dead nails. In 2023, a 2,000-year-old tomb was discovered in the ancient city of Sagalassos, Turkey. It seemed like a traditional ancient tomb, but archaeologists noticed one unique thing about this tomb. All over the site were dead nails. So what exactly are dead nails? Well, they're normal nails that have been bent and twisted, but instead of using them for construction, they're simply spread throughout the graveyard in hopes of preventing the dead from coming back to life. Researchers believe these measures were taken to prevent the restless dead from returning. The bent nails are particularly interesting because they were a common find in Western European cemeteries from the 1st to 2nd centuries AD, thought to have magical or protective properties. The fear of the deceased returning to haunt the living was a real concern, and these precautions were likely meant to keep any restless spirits at bay. Over 41 of these nails were scattered around the edges of the cremation pyre. This shows that the ancient Romans were also deeply afraid of the dead coming back to life. Typically, Roman cremations involved burning the body on a pyre, collecting the ashes in an urn, and burying it in a cemetery. However, this individual was cremated and buried on the spot, a practice that's quite rare for that period. The burial also included typical Roman relics like ceramic and glass dishes, coins, and food scraps, indicating a proper and respectful send-off. What do you think about these discoveries? Let me know in the comments down below. Also check out our other cool videos showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.